students, how are you all? Let's talk about Nissim Ezekiel and his poem Marriage, which is prescribed on the syllabus of BA third year pass course English Literature for Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur. Nissim Ezekiel is a renowned Indian English poet, and the poem which we are going to discuss today is Marriage. Nissim Ezekiel published his first volume of verse, A Time to Change, in 1952, and since then he continually wrote poetry. He occupies an important place among the Indian English poets who have occupied the limelight after the Second World War. His other volumes of verse are 60 poems, which came out in 1953, The Third in 1959, The Unfinished Man in 1960, The Exact Name in 1965, and then Snakeskin and Other Poems in 1974. Hymns in Darkness 1976 and Latter Day Poems came out in 1982. He received the prestigious Sahitya Akademi Award for Latter Day Poems, which came out in 1982. So Ezekiel is an important Indian English poet, and now let's talk about his poem Marriage. This poem appeared in the author's fourth volume of poems, which was originally published in 1960, and subsequently it was also added to his 1965 volume of poetry, The Unfinished Man. As the title of the poem shows, it deals with the subject of marriage, with the ecstasies of marriage in the beginning and with the disillusionment which marriage brings later in life to both a husband and his wife. There is nothing exceptional about the theme of this poem, because every married man knows the realities of marriage. Every married man has tasted the sweetness of his relationship with his wife, and he also knows the misery and the pain which it causes to both the partners in course of time because of the differences of opinion, the clashes of views, the incompatibilities of temperaments of which they had never been aware before, and the misunderstandings which take place because of the relatives and even because of the children about whom the husband and the wife form different notions. However, the author in this poem does not go into the causes of the disillusionment, but merely points out the fact of disillusionment after drawing our attention to the initial raptures of the relationship between a husband and a wife. Now let's read the poem and appreciate it. Marriage. Lovers, when they marry, face eternity with touching grace, complacent at being fated never to be separated. The bride is always pretty, the groom a lucky man, the darkened room roars out the joy of flesh and blood. The use of nakedness is good. I went through this, believing all. Our love denied the primal fall. Wordless, we walked among the trees and felt immortal as the breeze. However, many times we came apart, we came together, the same thing over and over again. Then suddenly the mark of Cain began to show on her and me. Why should I ruin the mystery by harping on the suffering rest, myself a frequent wedding guest? So the institution of marriage and the married life of a person, of two persons, has been on the discussion of this poem. The feelings of a married couple at the time of their marriage. This idea has been depicted by Ezekiel in the first stanza. When a man and a woman who are in love with each other get married, they feel that they would never be separated in life and that they would experience the pleasures of married life without interruption and forever. The poet himself has had an experience of the pleasures of married life. In fact, he had for some time after the marriage, felt so happy, and his wife too had felt so happy, that neither of them could believe that they would ever cease to love each other. It had been impossible for them even to believe that the communion of Adam and Eve in paradise could have offended God so deeply as to lead to their expulsion from that place. So the reference given here is the reference to Adam and Eve. The Adam and Eve in Christianity are considered as the originators of human race. They are considered as the first man and woman created by God on earth. And their communion, their coming together, offended God so deeply that they were expelled from that place. The same happens with the married people. That is the idea of this stanza. Now, how does a man and a woman feel after they have got married? The subsequent feelings of a man and his wife this idea has been depicted in the second stanza. However, the author subsequently found that his conjugal life with his wife was tending to make him regret the marriage, and the same was his wife's impression of their conjugal life. Thus, they now felt like the biblical person Cain, who murdered his brother Abel and who thereafter spent many years of regret, repentance, and aimless wandering in a mood of desolation. The spell of marriage had now been shattered for both the author and his wife. Now, the last stanza began to show on her and me, why should I ruin the mystery by harping on the suffering rest, myself a frequent wedding guest. The poet here, after pondering over the negative side of married life, when there are frequent quarrels between husband and wife, and when all the happiness of married life is gone, flies away, the poet, after having discussed that negative side of married life, he comes again to treating the subject of marriage in a neutral way. So at the close of the poem, the poet says that he would not like to destroy the mystery of marriage by dwelling upon its dark side and the suffering which marriage brings in the long run for both husband and wife. Having frequently attended the marriages of other people in response to their invitations, he does not feel justified in criticizing or condemning marriage. The fact that he has frequently attended other people's marriages shows that he has not become cynical about the bond which marriage establishes between a man and a woman. So this is how Ezekiel expresses his feelings, his thoughts about his philosophical musings about the institution of marriage, that marriage at the beginning is a phenomenon or a happy occurring in a man and a woman's life. First of all, it feels like spring, and the lovers, the two husband and wife, they feel that they would never part from each other and they would forever live happily. But after some years, when frequent quarrels start between the two, they feel very desolated, very disappointed with each other, and they feel that they had committed a mistake by getting married. But in the last stanza, the poet says that life is just like this. It's a mingling of sorrow and happiness, and same is true about the relationship of husband and wife. If there are sad moments, in their life, if sometimes they feel disappointed from each other, but then they come together and they negotiate with each other and they resolve their quarrels, and they come again together. So the poet here says that I should not criticize the institution of marriage. I should not ponder much over the mystery of marriage. I should let it as it is, so that because I have already married, I myself have been married, and I have also been a guest to many marriages. So I should leave the things as they are. So it depends on the experience of person. It depends on person to person how they feel about it. So this is the poem Marriage by Nissim Ezekiel. Thank you for listening.